every day. Time no day, so every day. You see what happened today.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Curatorial-ly Speaking. I am your host, Oluwasayo, Olowo-Ake, and today I'm joined by an artist that I've followed for 2 years, and I really like his work. His name is Osaze Amadasun. Osaze, how are you? How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm very well. Thanks for having me, Shayo. Very, very, very well. Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Okay, so can you
Cool.
introduce yourself just for the viewers? Who are you? Tell us a bit about your art practice and your favorite food.
Yeah. So, like I said, my name is Osaze Amadasun. I am an illustrator and designer. The works that I do mostly cut across drawings, paintings, illustration work, and graphic design as well. My background is originally in architecture, but I mean, I've been drawing ever since I was very little. So I guess that kind of like followed me, and currently is what I do like full time. And going back to your second question, I favorite food, I would just say jollof rice and plantain. Yeah,
Okay.
let's go with
You
that.
can never go wrong with your love rice and plantain, but it
Yeah,
seems like the way you're sounding is as if there's something else. But so I'm just going to leave you for the sake
yeah.
of
I mean, I just eat food, but if I gone to my head, I had to choose one. I'll just say like jollof rice and plantain.
okay, oh, okay, okay.
Yeah,
And you studied architecture. That was very interesting
yeah.
when I read that in the bio. So, in your bio. So, did you make a switch to art, or would you say you do both?
Yeah, I mean, I made the switch to arts after I finished from architecture schools because like ours was 6 years, we do 4 years. I did 4 years BSc, 2 years
Mm,
masters, and during the BSc program, we have like this internship we do. So I did the internship at an architectural firm. I didn't really like it, but I just felt like, okay, let's try and do the masters. Maybe something will change along the line. But
mm,
again, it wasn't really fulfilling for me. So after I finished, I just switched to like art full
yeah,
time. I mean, I was working in marketing, digital marketing, doing things like graphic design works and all,
yeah.
but before switching into like art full time.
That's very interesting. Architects, everybody that is an architect that is listening to this, you I salute you people. I did interior architecture and design. That's why when I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh. But I was 3 years. Like when I see architects, you guys are trying. But anyway, that's great to know. Like, and me on this end as a viewer, I'm glad you made the switch to us because now I see all your beautiful work and other than that, I don't think we would have been able to see such like precision and just let me stop fangirling. Let me wait. Second question. What interests you about the Benin Empire? This is me assuming that your work is majorly inspired or influenced by that empire. So what interests you?
Yeah, I mean, my work is not like fixed 100% to like the Benin Kingdom. I've done other things through the years, but at the moment, I guess most people would associate my works to Benin Kingdom because I mean that's mostly like what I put out there. And for me, how that started was like back in like architecture school. So I'll say I've lived most of my life in like Lagos, Nigeria, so I haven't really been really connected to Benin. Can't really say I've lived in Benin for a long time because that was like when I was very little.
Okay.
So coming back to when I was in architecture school, we had like this project that we were asked to design a theme park for a landscape project. And I'd always been hearing about like Benin Kingdom, Benin art and all, but I didn't really. It's just surface level things,
Yeah.
nothing too deep. I was like, okay, maybe I can just try and do something around Benin, just to try and see what this whole kingdom is about and their history and all. So I decided to do a theme park around one of the past kings of Benin,
Mm,
and like when I was making research, looking for like case studies and visual materials that I could use on my project, I started like reading up on the history of Benin, symbolisms, individuals, heroes and heroines in the kingdom,
mm,
so that was kind of interesting to me. But I was mostly like saying like the plaques and the sculptures and the write-ups. I mean, I'm a very, very visual person, so I was always, in my mind, I was always like, man, it would be cool if they were like, like some figurative works, like actually interpreting some of these things. At the time, there was one that I came across, and that was by Mr. Erabo Mopai. So he did a painting around Obaisigi, so I felt like, man, it would be cool if there were like more paintings like that, but I was just like, you know what, rather than saying, why doesn't something, I could kind of like, I was kind of like okay at art then, but I didn't really have enough knowledge to produce work around the subject matter. So it was based on that project that kickstarted the whole like research and looking into like Benin art and creating pieces around that. So that was kind of like Genesis.
Oh wow. So that's like during your architecture. That's very interesting, during your architecture course. Because I remember when I found your work, I was doing my MA, and I had to write an essay. And my topic, because I did my master's here in Vancouver. So just being in this space where I know that already the focus is not my history. It was a Renaissance class. I said that my topic would be about looking at photography, how photography was used as a tool to aid colonization in Nigeria. And I came across Jonathan Adagogo Green's photographs. He was one of the photographers in the Niger Delta area that was photographing different things. And he took a picture of Obavoranwe's exile, the exile that followed the expedition. And I thought to myself, why didn't this man he's a Nigerian, but why didn't he take pictures of the palace while it was still up? Because he took the picture of the exile, which means he had the tool to take the picture of the palace, and I started to think, obviously, there's a lot going on in Nigeria, not Nigeria at the time, Niger Protectorate. There's a lot going on in Nigeria at the time. So I can understand if his clientele was like for expatriates and all that. So that's when I stumbled on your work. And then I started to think, oh, I wonder if Osaze is showing us how the Benin Empire is supposed to be seen rather than what we see in these photographs. Like for you, when you paint these different, what would you call them? Would you call them elements of history? Are they something new? What is it? What are you trying to do through your paintings? I should ask.
Yeah, so I'm just capturing moments in time. For me, that's how I'll kind of like put it. I'm capturing moments in time, in particular, the ones relating to the works I've done around Benin. It's similar to what the plaques did, like depicting important historical figures and capturing festivals and ceremonies. So I would say my work is sort of like an extension of that, but in like a more figurative form. And going back to like what you said about Jonathan Green's images, actually did a series around Obavorewa. So it was like the last independent kingdom of Benin, so for me, like when I looked at those images, kind of like what you said, he was mostly like in chains, captive, he wasn't in full coral. So in my mind, there was like sort of like a disconnect, because like when you talk about royalties or kings and queens, you imagine them in like their
glory and their
attire, so and their royal. So for me, I try to like, should I say recorrect that, or like try to visually depict the last independent king of Benin in like his attire. So there was a couple of images where he's on horseback, and some other ones around the king, but in all of them he's dressed in royal attire, so that was like how I addressed that matter in my own little way, because like most of the time when you said like about Goran, you like see the images of him in chains, captivities, guards around him. So I don't know, maybe somebody Googles about Goran now and there's like some SEO thing that brings up one of my paintings or something, I guess that in a way could like rewire people's brains as to, okay, what this individual could look like. And aside that, the other works I do, just capturing important moments and like historical figures and individuals, because like I said, I'm very figurative, and when I see those plaques or the freestanding sculptures, sometimes it's a bit difficult for me to like make that connection to, okay, what does this actual person look like? And also created a couple of paintings around that as well. So I'd say my works are generally an extension of the plaques and what they do.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because also looking at those photographs, for me, one reason why your images, your paintings actually stood out, because I look at the photographs, or I've been to the British Museum before, so I look at the plaques, and it's almost like I see it, but there's no way I can look at these plaques without thinking of repatriation, or thinking of the explanation, or thinking of like all these things that have already happened in history. But then I see your paintings and I'm like, oh, okay, it's true. This is what it should look like in color. Like, of course, why didn't I imagine that this is how like regal and that the king would look like? Obviously, this makes sense. And so I feel like it just adds a different, like you said, you're a visual person, but for us, for viewers, it adds this kind of, this is what it's supposed to be. This is how it looks. Yeah. But I also wanted to ask about how you engage African cultural heritage and contemporary Nigerian art in your work. I have to just quickly say for viewers, because this might sound like curatorial jargon, but so African cultural heritage, we would say, are the um objects that were stolen, mostly stolen, that are in foreign museums. So you go to the British Museum, they're in a glass box, they shine lights, and they don't know the history. They just have something unknown with a vague date. And contemporary Nigerian art is what's happening now. So contemporary being the present. So like Osaze's work is contemporary. But I just want to ask how those two merge in your work. Do you see your work as only contemporary art, or how do you place African culture? For you, do you give it that term when you look at your work because it's based on history?
So no, like I don't really think about it in that sense. I feel like both of them there's like some overlap. Personally, that's what I feel, because you can't exclude the works that were taken away. Yeah, you're looking at the works, they're like in glass boxes and displayed in different arrayed together in a certain place. That's how you see them when you come to look at them as viewers. But I mean, they were just like everyday objects that people, just like how you have your photograph on your wall and things like that. They were like what people actually used back then. And for me, I am just trying to see how I can take that and put it together in a way that seems put it together in a way that they would have been used like back then. So take for example plaque. Okay, take for example this plaque depicting Oba. So you go to the museum, you see the plaque, it's just there isolated. You can't really make the connection. But again, like these things were what were used to like commemorate events and festivals, important events and festivals. So for example, you have, okay, the king has gone to war, goes to war. After that, victorious, they cast a plaque commemorating that particular battle or event. When you're looking at that sculpture in the museums, you can't really make it's hard to make the connection. So that is what like I try to do. So I don't really see it as two separate things. I feel like there's the merge when I'm doing my work, but when I'm creating it, it's not like as if I'm thinking, how does this satisfy this, or how does this, like, I just do the work,
That's very interesting, because I find that a lot of conversations that I have here, people are, especially people who are not Nigerian, or people who have lived here and see, what is in museums. It's almost like, oh, this one is separate from this, but then you say no, it's not. And I don't even think about it like African cultural heritage is just history and it's just culture. And maybe that's owing to the fact that you are from Nigeria and you have engaged with these different cultural forms. But I like that you said that, so I hope that this is the point that people take, because I've been screaming this yeah, for
yeah
a very long time. And sometimes people can't comprehend that it's one and the same thing, that it's not separate. So I like that you said that. The next question I'll ask, you've kind of already answered it. So I think I want to go to your specific, I want to pick up a specific work now. You draw a lot on symbolisms from like the Benin culture, like people. And I find it interesting how you position figures. So and I might not pronounce this well, emoton. How do I say? I don't know how to say the name
Yeah,
properly.
yeah, emoton.
Emoton. I'm saying like a Yoruba
Yeah,
girl. Anyway, emoton. So you have her as a main figure in your work, and then you have other scenes happening in the background, like there are
yeah,
heads of babies on either side of the portrait, and you have the two different things in the background. She's just there in the foreground, and so I
yeah,
wanted you to talk us through not just that. I've seen animals and like staffs in like other paintings. So can you just talk
yeah.
us through how you compose your images and how you pick those, like what do they all represent, what do they mean?
Yeah, so in terms of composition, I draw like inspirations from classical artworks that were created, classical Catholic artworks that were created back in the past. Yeah, I draw lots of inspiration in terms of like how they compose, yeah, the images. So even that piece in particular that you mentioned, Emoton that has like children, that was also referenced from one of the past artworks. So for me, I feel like there are lots of similarities in terms of how paintings were composed, like historical paintings depicting Christ or
Yeah.
other individuals as it pertains to the church. So take, for example, the Christ in Majesty image where you have like Jesus Christ center of the image, then you have like angels flanked on both sides, then you have like other things going on in the background. So if you look at the plaques as well, in terms of like how the hierarchy and the structure works, you have like the king. Anywhere the king is depicted is usually the largest figure. Like there's really no plaque that another figure is larger than the king.
Yeah.
You could also have like a figure where okay, two of them are the same size, but there's not a plaque where another figure is larger than the king, you know. And then you have they play around with scale to depict or inform the viewers about who is like more important or the hierarchy of the individual. So you have the king, largest figures, and you have like his retainers or his servants like smaller than him in the composition. And I saw how that translated to the paintings that depicted Jesus Christ. And also I felt like it would be cool to like play around that in my work. So I in some, not all of them, but in some of my pieces, I reference that like what you see here, where you have like this
Yeah.
central figure, Idia, and she's flanked by her like retainers. And again, you also like have this halo going on in the background, but here I've replaced it with like iconographies that are particular to Benin Kingdom. Like here you have like the Portuguese figurehead, then the mudfish, which is also gotten from the ivory Idia mask. So I took that and reinterpreted it in my own way, and that's what you have here.
Oh wow, that's very detailed, but also I didn't make that connection. I saw the similarity to the Benin plaques because I could tell that there's always that one main subject who is large and then others. But like even when you talk about Catholic paintings, and I didn't make that connection, so that's very interesting. But I wondered if you could tell us, for example, just for viewers, the story of Emoton. Did I say that? Emoton. Emoton.
Yeah,
Okay. So
yeah,
what is
yeah,
this? What is her story?
yeah. So basically, she was a market woman back then in Benin, and she was like a market woman who really, really like loved children a lot. So back then there was the person that was supposed to be the king of take over the throne, Prince Ogun, who eventually became Obayawari the Great. So at the time he was sent on exile, and his half brother wanted to like that usurped his throne, wanted to like kill him. So while he was on exile, he took refuge in Emoton's home. So Emoton sheltered him, gave him food, and also served as his eyes within the city. So gave him like intel and all. So one account says that when she gave him the intel, of where his brother was going to like pass, as his brother that usurped the throne.
Yeah.
And then he was able to like meet the brother, confront him one-on-one, they fought, and he killed his brother, and he took the throne that was rightfully his, and after he took the throne and Emoto eventually died, he deified her by planting a tall tree, which people like go to pay homage to. Also, if there's like any new king installed, they go there, pay homage to her, and the tree was eventually replaced by a statue. Yeah, I think I forget the person who cast that statue. Is it a French sculptor? I think it's a French sculptor. I can't really remember to be exact, but that's pretty much the gist around Emoto.
Okay. And if I go back to your last independent king of Benin, some of the symbols I've seen there, I think is it a leopard or
Yeah.
okay, a leopard. And I think I've seen the staff in other ones as well. What do those mean? The leopard being there, is it just a symbol for the king as someone who has power, or is there something else?
Yeah, I mean, the leopard can be ascribed to like be like in terms of iconography, shorthand for like royalty or the king, So they say like the leopard is the king of the forest, and the Oba is like the king of, called like the Oba, the home leopard. Now they say like the Oba has dominion over like the animals as well, and also the leopard of the forest. So leopards are generally like ferocious, they're like fast, they are cunning, and people like attribute those characteristics to the king of Benin. So somehow in Benin art, they became like a shorthand for depicting the king. So you see like plaques depicting leopards. I think there's even a plaque of the king holding like two leopards. King is a central figure, is holding two leopards. You see in their armlets, they have like iconographies depicting the plaque. Even they have like the cast brass heads of the leopard, which they also like integrate into their full royal attire. And also you see like the warriors that go to war, they had like this necklace of leopard teeth as well. So I mean the leopard was is very significant in terms of Benin art,
Okay. And now I want to talk a bit about your process. How long does it take any of your paintings? How long does it take you to make them?
Yeah, so it's not like as if I set like a timer and I'm like, go start painting. Like, I don't know. It depends. It depends. It depends on like how detailed or like intricate the work is. So for example, something like this would not take me as long as, yes, something like this would, that has like different scenes and also has like some map going on in the background. So but I would, if I was to like give a rough estimate, I would say within a month. Within a month.
Wow.
Yeah, within a month, probably less if I'm not doing anything else. But usually, like I take breaks. It's not like I'm like, sit down, you must finish this thing now, yeah.
Setting the new world record.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I mean, give or take within a month. That's if I'm painting like traditionally. But obviously, if I'm working digitally on my computer, it's going to be way faster than that.
Yeah. And the reason I asked that, because I was looking on Instagram and I saw a slide of like a whole thread of how you compose I can't remember what painting it was now, but it started with like just circles and triangles, and then it got more detailed as the slide went. And so I was like, oh wow, like I can imagine how much, especially looking at the one on my left, the one behind you with the map in the background, like I can imagine how long that takes and the precision that you have to. So I was just very curious. But I also want to ask about your Bini cards. I don't even know where to start this question from. I think it's a very phenomenal idea. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. But just talk to me about like the reason why you did it, but also like what is in the deck of cards.
Yeah, so um the idea for the cards came actually when I was like in architecture school as well, going back to like when I had that project for designing the theme park, it was just a random thing that I just thought, and it would be cool to like have, I guess, some card deck centered around the history of Benin. It was a random idea back then, but I always have like this sketchbook or notepad where I just like write down rough ideas or just do like some so that I don't forget.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you think you remember, but you just forget. So put that down back then. I think that was in 2016. So while I was making research into like the work that I did for that my project, I was also like collecting like references and case studies for the deck of cards as well. So for me, for me, it was just like it's like an extension of what you have, like your regular like bicycle deck. But I wanted something that was particular to the Kingdom of Benin, like the characters, the individuals that were within the deck. For me, I felt like it could serve as something that was like fun, or it could also be something that people could like get to like, learn about
Yeah.
Benin and his art and things like that. So you have like the characters that are here, the queen and all particular individuals in Benin, and the iconographies that are here are also like linked to Benin as well. So that was pretty much what I tried to do with that.
Okay. And is this still in circulation, or was it like a one-time project that
Yeah, I
you
mean
did?
it's at the moment, no, it's sold out at the moment. At the moment it's sold out. I haven't done any new reproductions for now, but I just tried doing it, producing it like locally here in Lagos and just doing like, limited run. And
Yeah,
thankfully it was like well received,
that's great.
and so I don't know when next I'll have like another production run, but it's definitely in the works.
Okay. Okay, that's cool. And I wanted to ask if you um have any project that you would term your favorite or was the best to work on. Do you have any project like that for
Mm,
whatever reason that it might be?
best best to work on.
Or
Hmm.
like, do you have that, or is that not a thing with all
Yeah,
painters?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like different. Okay, I don't know. If I was to choose one again, like you mentioned, the food,
Mm.
gun to my head, it's like I don't really have one, but if I was
Yeah.
just to pick one, gun to my head, like if you don't choose one, you die. I would say the cards. I'll actually say the cards. The reason
Okay.
why I would say the cards is because there there was just like a lot of like planning and thought that went into it. Not like there's not any planning that goes into any of the paintings that I do, but I mean, like from doing sketches, working, creating lots of different iterations on my computer to actually producing this thing, doing multiple test prints,
Mm-hmm.
see the print, correct this, ask different people for their opinions and feedback, to finally finishing the design, working on adverts for the design, and also like doing like some promotional videos. So I felt like there were um different aspects to the project. So there was like the graphic design side, there was the fine art side, there was also the advertising aspect to it,
Yeah.
and it just gave me a lot more room to, I guess, flex my creative
For
muscles.
sure.
So I really enjoyed I really enjoyed working on that as well, I would say.
Yeah.
But I mean, every project has its own, I guess, unique
Something.
unique
Yeah.
unique thing to it.
Yeah. And that's great. I feel like that probably is, you're talking about being in digital marketing and everything. So I feel like all the things that you have tried or you do
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
just
really,
summed up
really,
in that project.
yeah,
So that's
100%.
That's amazing. So I just before my very last short question that maybe we'll have a short
Sure.
answer just before we go is so why do you see the work you do? What is the English? Why is this important? The work that you do, what do you find significant about this? Or what do you want viewers to even take away from your work?
So like for me, I'm just a messenger. I'm just, like I said, capturing moments in time and putting it out there.
Yeah.
We've definitely, well, let me not say we. I, for one, have definitely consumed a lot of like things from different cultures. So from Norse to like Greek mythology,
Yeah.
video games, movies, live action, Marvel and all. Like we've
Yes.
consumed a lot of things in that regard. And for me, I feel like there isn't, or I haven't seen like any full feature film like around, I don't know, Shango or like around Benin
Yeah.
Kingdom or Oyo Empire or something like that. And I can understand why, because these things are really, really right. They are really, really expensive to produce, Um, I'm just making visuals that, I don't know, who knows, maybe somebody that wants to make a film later on could like reference something, and that could be like a good starting point to help them create something awesome. Or an artist wants to do something and maybe they reference one of my work and even do something cooler than that. Like, I mean, we're not here for a long time. So me, I'm just like trying to like just do my own little part, Like I said, I don't think, or I am not going to like be on Benin subject matter forever till I die. So like while I can still do that before I move on to something else, I'm just trying to like, put out as many visuals as I can.
Wow, that's great. I like the idea of like being the messenger and just plug to anybody, any of the
Yeah, I'm
viewers that
just
want to take inspiration in case anybody will listen and they want to do a film. As I say, he's right here for you. You can call him up, you can hit him up and be like, come and give us some illustrations, because I feel like that would be a very, very timely, very important kind of project. But thank you so much for being on this podcast with me and for just sharing about your process and your work and your art. You can follow Osaze on Instagram at Osaze_Amadasun. And if you want to see his work, click on the link in the description box to see his website and other things that he has done. But thank you, Osaze, and until next time, everyone. Bye.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Sharon. Take care, guys.
Them no say we come night and day. Sister pave the way, so I no hesitate. Brother tell me say, make I no come exclaim. Cause this gist it day, yes this gist it day.